My manager at the time taught me this really great mantra. It's called stop trying to be interesting, be interested. It allowed me to realize that it's not always about who we are that we're presenting ourselves from the lens. It's also about thinking, what does our audience want? What are they requesting from us? What do they need right now? And I think that made my content a lot more thoughtful, a lot more intentional, and also made my training programs a lot more easier to follow because, again, I'm thinking from a beginner's perspective rather than someone who's been in the industry for years.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Adobe Live Studio Sessions. We're super excited to record live today from Creator Live in London, Adobe's creator event for creators and with creators. And I'm sitting here with Emma, my colleague, and we're going to have a fantastic time having a conversation with our guest, Laurie, in a second. But I just want to share, I think it's wonderful that we do this together, Emma. We've been speaking about having conversations with creators, really getting into their knowledge and their tips and tricks together. And we're doing that today here live at our event. So excited to, what a challenge and what an opportunity.
So I tend to throw the team challenges once in a while, and the podcast is one of them.
Exactly.
And I'm really passionate about podcasting. I love that we started this with Rob a few weeks ago. We started recording, and Creator Live is such a special moment that it just feels so great to be here and welcome people and obviously bring in guests from London and the UK. So we're so excited. This is a global podcast, so we do have episodes that are going out in the US, in Europe, and really focusing currently on the UK. And I'm so excited, Laurie, to have you here today because you're actually from the US and moved to the UK. Actually, you said quite a while back, 15, 18 years ago. We spoke
years
yesterday.
ago. That's crazy. You're doing 1 year study abroad, the next thing you know, you're here.
We'll have to celebrate. Do you remember which month exactly of the year and when did you move?
Gosh, it was in August, actually, just before I started my full-time job. It was in the summer.
Yeah.
So doing a little summer internship. And I loved it here. I fell in love with the perspectives in London, the pace, the calmness. So yeah, it's a nice change for me.
Nice.
But I still miss New York so much.
We'll have to get into what the move meant for you and, you know, the kind of being in London and how that works for you. But we'll let you introduce yourself to our listeners who might not know you or, are going to get to know you in the next kind of hour or 45 minutes.
Sure. So my name is Laurie, and I currently run an AI training business in London, working with clients like Google, like Microsoft, and Meta. Really enjoy that, really close to my heart. But on the other side, I also picked up a really creative habit of making content on YouTube. So my channel has been going for about 2.5 years now. Really enjoying making content on productivity, on AI, on how we can really embrace our skills to make the most of the future work that we're in right now. And the landscape is shifting, and I think a lot of my audiences are really interested in how they can leverage what they have right now and to embrace the future in the best way possible. So I love the community that I built there. And yeah, I'm really enjoying living in London as well and being a transatlantic implant over here in this city. I think a lot of the city has influenced me with its international perspectives and the people that get to meet in the community here, in the creators scene in London as well, which has been great. So great to be here.
Super excited. And before we get into what you do, how you got started, your background, you actually have a really interesting story because you were at Google. You've had like a very interesting path. We spoke yesterday at our Ambassador Summit, which was great. But we always start with a rapid fire kind of section. So we'll throw these questions at you and you have like just a really quick answer and then we'll get to the next question. I always get tempted.
Sounds like fun.
I know Meryl was already doing this in the previous episode, but I'm always tempted to ask follow-up questions, so I'll try not to. So idea first or execution first?
Idea.
Okay, great. Coffee, tea, or wild card drink?
Wild card because I love matcha.
Oh, nice. So we have a matcha bar here at Creator Live right next door. So
I'm getting one after this.
Nice. So spot on. One European city that fuels your creativity?
London. It's always been the
Nice.
place.
Extra question. One American city or a US city that you're fueled by?
I would say LA, actually. I've been there about 2 years ago, and the whole scene really surprised me. So I love it there.
Nice.
In a positive way, I
In a positive way,
Yeah.
yes, definitely.
Awesome. One trend that you're over?
I didn't like that very skinny, very long vertical, what do you call it, horizontal
It had a
format
very
on
short
Instagram.
phase.
It was a very short phase because as a creative myself, I just feel like it's not showcasing my content in the best way. And, it's hard to see. So, yeah, didn't like that one.
Follow-up question that I'm also improvising on. What is your main channel?
My main channel is YouTube. I use Instagram and also LinkedIn quite heavily as well.
Nice. Going back to trends, one trend that you're excited about.
One trend I'm excited about. I guess something to do with AI on this side, just because yesterday I got to sit in Siobhan's presentation, which I'm, just kind of blown away by the amount of things you can do on Adobe Firefly boards, and also the amount of generative AI images and videos that look so realistic. Something that I'm looking to integrate more into the client workflow that I speak, to my clients on a daily basis, on how they can leverage that for their branding and also building their brand online. It's great.
And just a shout out to Siobhan from They Are Creative, if anyone doesn't know them.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had a really great time kind of digging into AI yesterday. So that's, I'm excited to talk more and kind
Right.
of pick your brains about it. Early bird or late night creator?
Ooh, I'm an early bird, definitely. I like to sleep early, get up early.
How
Yeah.
early is early?
Well, I have a daughter, so, she's 6 years old. So really, something anytime from 5 a.m. onwards. So she wakes up, we wake up, basically.
Work from home or office/studio?
It's a mix, actually, between co-working and also home. Home is great for, I believe, deep work, just because you get to really get into it. I love co-working for the energy because I miss being around people.
Nice. And you were actually telling me about some co-working spaces in London that you tend to go to with creator leaders and meet some of the folks there. So we'll ask questions. But lastly, rapid fire section closing off. The best creative advice you've ever received or advice for a creator?
I think for me, it was a creator who was really way ahead of me at the time. And she told me that you just have to really stop embracing perfection and get your content out there, because the best way to learn from feedback is getting out into the real world. And your audience is not just the algorithm. Your audience is real people.
Yeah.
And when you see real feedback, that's when you know that you can actually improve it in a certain way. So I really love that advice.
So I have lots of questions, Meryl, probably as well, on how you plan your content, because yesterday at the summit we talked about people who schedule posts and those who just want to give themselves time to put the right content out there and to focus more on quality. So I have lots of questions on how you prioritize quality, quantity, and what being a creator means for you and how you structure your time. But maybe you want to give more background in terms of how you got here, how YouTube became your main channel, and yeah, what you do, how education is important for you in terms of the AI community, and yeah, tell us more about that.
Definitely. So I started my career really, building learning programs at Google. And that's been something that's really close to my heart. Being able to see people leverage that program and then actually upskill themselves to build their career, to build their business, to build their brand online. It's been amazing. And I realize now, looking back, YouTube has always been this extension of myself, sharing the information that I know with others, but now on a much bigger scale. Because essentially I get to now share one video and someone from somewhere that I haven't even ever traveled to in the world can watch it from anywhere, from any time, and be able to access that information. I think it's very exciting for me because it really democratizes the access that we all have. And I get to learn from YouTube, from the places that I get to share my content on social media, Instagram and LinkedIn. So I think the amount of information that we have at our fingertips is very exciting. And that's why I think, YouTube for me was just a natural extension, really.
Nice.
Yeah. Was there that one moment when you were still in your full-time job where you said, okay, hey, you know what, I'm going to change careers in a little bit? Was there a pivotal moment that, allowed you to do what you do today?
Yeah, I think that's such a great question, because there's been moments where I had this itch where I knew that I wanted to build something. But obviously, having that background of having a job at Google, having essentially something that looks very nice on paper, right? It's this the comfort zone that you're kind of afraid to push through. But then inside, I had this itch where I want to build something of my own. I didn't know what that was yet at the time. But when I wrapped up the program with Google, I thought to myself, actually, I really enjoy learning and development. I love teaching. And it's something that came out of pretty much a surprise for me, right? Because I've been a marketer for pretty much my whole life.
Yeah.
And so being able to design my own training programs was very exciting for me. And that's why I launched my own AI training company to do that. Because I noticed this massive gap of companies who want to adopt AI, but then their employees are trying to catch up to the pace. And really, I think AI is reshaping the way that we work forever. And those who are able to embrace that trend and embrace the learning around that are the ones who are going to be promoted the most, who are going to be able to level up their careers the most. So yeah, I'm just realizing that actually by doing this, I'm able to share my content on a much bigger scale. And then one is obviously doing one-to-many sessions, but now also doing it digitally online as well.
Yeah. And how did you, I mean, that was a few years ago, right?
Yes,
When you
absolutely.
changed careers. How did you approach that in terms of formats and the services you're offering, the trainings you're offering? Did you really look at it, okay, what is it that people might need? Is there an opportunity? You put yourself out there and then developed it from there? Or was there a concrete ask that you spotted, for example, for a newsletter? Like, how did you build up from scratch?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the biggest feedbacks that I got
Yeah.
through the programs that I was designing when I was working at Google was that I was able to take very complex concepts and make it very simple to understand. And I realized this has always been my ethos, having basically looking back to all the things I've done since then, which it could be either a presentation, it could be a keynote or training, or even a YouTube video, right? Essentially, I'm taking something very complex and making it easy to follow for someone else to learn. And I realized that's something that I could actually adopt into my own style, and hence why it became my signature. That was I was known for because there's so many jargons, not only just the AI, but in the industry that I was operating in digital advertising, in marketing, and I think people tend to get scared by complex jargons and concepts that they don't understand.
They don't even start then, right?
They won't even start.
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
So if I can make it easy to understand for someone to realize, okay, I don't need to be technical, I don't need to be a developer to know all this stuff. I can actually be empowered to take this into what I do, into my own workflow. I think that really made a difference for them. And that's what I suppose made me realize there's a gap in the space for that.
yeah.
What is one of the biggest things you learned from Google and your experience there when you obviously some of that might take time and through your last years of being a content creator and focusing on that you might remember those times and feel like, oh, I learned so much from that and that's now valuable.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much at the beginning when you're starting out off and figuring out what this YouTube journey would be for you, but what do you feel was one of the main learnings that you still value nowadays?
I think I really value the leadership that I was working under at the time.
Oh, great.
Really enjoy the team, and they taught me something that I think that's a lot deeper than just technical skills. My manager at the time taught me this really great mantra. It's called "Stop trying to be interesting, be interested." And it's something that's really carried me through my whole career and even becoming a creator, launching my own business, because it allowed me to realize that it's not always about who we are that we're presenting ourselves from the lens, right? It's also about thinking, what does our audience want? What are they requesting from us? What do they need right now? Are we thinking from a perspective, of where they are? And I think that made my content a lot more thoughtful, a lot more intentional, and also made my training programs a lot more easier to follow because, again, I'm thinking from a beginner's perspective rather than someone who's been in industry for years.
Yeah. Yeah, super, super insightful. I'm wondering, when you get these different insights then from your audience, how do you decide what format or what content you're gonna share where on what channel? Like, what is your approach there? Do you have dedicated formats for, yeah, the platform? Like, how do you approach that?
Absolutely. So I think in terms of my platforms as long form, medium form, and short form. And the long form are essentially my long form videos on YouTube. So these could be 8 to 20 minutes long, sometimes a little bit over that if it's going to be a much more in-depth training piece. And then from that one piece of video, I can then leverage AI to help me break that down into smaller chunks of medium and short form content. So medium form content, I like to share some of those clips on LinkedIn, for example, where I can say there's a specific area of this video that I thought was really useful for my audience. And I can then point that out on my LinkedIn post. Then if they want to, then go ahead and watch the full video on YouTube. And the same thing on Instagram and obviously TikTok, because these are much more shorter platforms. They have a lot shorter attention span. So trying to find the specific segments where it has a very clean hook. And those who are listening to this probably know what I'm talking about. And then from there, then drive on to give the entire content of the payoff for the rest of that 30 seconds. So it really helped me to really make my workflow a lot more streamlined and then allow me to scale myself a lot more quicker, just because as one person creating content for all these different platforms, it does get quite tiring. It could easily lead to burnout. But I think if you can make it very easy for yourself and create AI workflows around that, it can really help.
just very quick follow-up question
Sure,
on that.
of
Would
course.
you then say that AI is a little bit your helping hand in order to navigate these different formats and platforms? Because one of the insights we got also yesterday was that it can be very overwhelming to serve these different platforms and the different needs. So I'm just curious how you deal with that.
Absolutely. I think AI really democratized access for creators who previously didn't have the resources to hire an entire team to help them create the amount of content that you need today. And I see this, every day where solo creators were able to really create amazing quality content because they're leveraging AI tools in the right way. But it can also be very overwhelming, right? Because there's so many different type of tools out there, and I think really at the core of it is understanding what is your key workflow. So what kind of content do you create? Are you a writer? Are you a video creator? Are you doing more kind of carousel text posts on Instagram, for example? Knowing the format that you want to do, and then thinking about how do I design workflows around that, leveraging AI, but only the specific tools that are relevant to you, not all the tools in the universe, which can become really overwhelming for you, right? And having this shiny object syndrome of having to try new tools all the time. So when I became very clear on that and had to really kind of keep myself controlled on not being, I guess, overexcited about trying every new tool, it made my process a lot more streamlined and a lot more easier to control. So
I had a question around setting up your channels, going back to that on trialing was a big piece of feedback that we had at the summit yesterday. I think Jack Faulkner was talking about trial reels. Obviously, I think for a lot of creators starting out, hearing that journey means like, I need to have all these polished things. I need to be successful. I need to set up all these channels. But what was testing like for you? And what was some of the more realistic, aspects of becoming a creator that were more demotivating or more real and that you kind of push through? That can be good advice for our listeners.
yeah, I want to just start saying that we all have videos that failed. The videos that we thought we spent hours on, right, that week and published it, no one watched it. I definitely had those as well. So that's part of the journey of being the up and downs of becoming a creator. It might not always work out the way you want, but actually some of the views that come through on the videos that you thought were doing well but didn't, actually these are real loyal viewers or listeners or people who are following your account who really care about what you have to say. That's one thing. The other part is that for me to using this kind of experimental mindset of testing and seeing how that works out for me is thinking about YouTube, at least for YouTube anyway, in terms of three parts. So there's the packaging, which is really important, perspective, and also profile. So packaging is, as we all know, when we're scrolling through the YouTube homepage, we're looking at a thumbnail and also a title. Because YouTube is the last frontier really on social media where we're choosing to watch a specific video versus on other platforms where it's feeding it to you in feed. So you're scrolling and you're just seeing content that are coming at you.
So kind of like a digital window, right? If you would go shopping and decide
Exactly.
where you would enter.
Exactly,
Yeah, okay.
because it's allowing you to decorate your window the way
Yeah.
that you want to and to attract viewers into your store or, your place. And in this case, I think for me to test that, make sure that I have about 3 to 4 variations of thumbnails ready before every video goes live. Make sure I have 3 to 4 different titles go ready as well. So all this planned beforehand makes it a lot more easier to maintain that experimental mindset and those experimental process in testing my videos. And I think, this is a part where a lot of people tend to overlook because the way I see it is that if no one clicks on your video, then no one's going to see your amazing content that you have behind that. So the packaging really is very, very key here. And secondly is perspective. Perspective really comes down to the idea that you have as the overarching part of this video. So really this idea is what supports everything that you have to say within your content. And that perspective is so important because it's your unique take on something that no one else can replicate. And I really highly recommend everyone think about this very carefully before they even create the content, because to understand who you are and what you stand for and who you're speaking to. And lastly is profile. So what is your background? What's unique about you that you can bring to the table? We talked about this with AI tools earlier, is that AI tools can allow anyone to create content on a mass level, right? And we're going to see a lot more of this going forward. But the key thing is what makes you stand out is your profile, is your background, your experience. And yesterday, Siobhan touched on this, where she had this fashion background, and that led her into creating these amazing creatives, right? In terms of things that you can tell that she has specific taste and judgment that made the content come alive. And I think that's what makes you unique nowadays as a creator. And this is what will make new creators come on the scene and actually be able to cut through the noise of that landscape.
Yeah.
If you were to apply those 3 pillars, which I find super helpful for any like creator listening, to yourself, what would that be? For example, what would be your hook? What is your like identity? If you were to answer those 3 pillar kind of questions, what are they for to apply to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I would say my perspectives are more about kind of embracing, um, e- essentially embracing the love of the work over hustle. Because I told you guys earlier when we were chatting off camera, is a lot of times for me, I found that in this industry, there's a lot of highlight reels of amazing results being shared, viral videos, deals that are landed. But the thing is, people don't tend to talk about the realistic behind the scenes moments of the videos that didn't land, the product launch that failed. And I like to share this with my audience because I like being real in front of the camera. I think that's one thing that helps to make my profile stand out, because the fact that I embrace the challenges rather than just always the wins. And then secondly is also how we can make the most of every moment in our lives. And I think that's one thing that I tend to talk a lot about in terms of how we embrace the time management side, make sure that we're making the most of the time that we do have to work on something. And then lastly, I would say is realizing that our creativity is probably the most important part in this future of work that we're going into, just because of the fact that there's so much content and so much noise are coming out in this space, and who you are and what you stand for and your creativity, your experience are really what will help you stand out. So I think these are the 3 main things that usually come across in my content.
I think you mentioned something really important there is the processes and the creativity. I'm wondering, how do you split your work week to really dedicate specific time to these areas? Because those require different skill sets, I would argue. So do you have maybe a day where you think, okay, today is like blank canva and I'm thinking about ideas. I'll go out and connect with people to fuel the creative thinking maybe. Another day is about shooting 20 videos and editing. Can you walk us a little through that?
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of times we have this contextual thinking in our mind on every single day and how we're working on different, I suppose, workflows and segments of our work. And for me, it's thinking about, okay, for Monday, for example, it's a much better day where I keep it to no meetings and essentially just use that as a strategic thinking day, because typically Mondays are very hectic. If you have a lot of meetings in your calendar, you just got back from the weekend. I tend to use this day as my strategic thinking day to plan out my content. And then Tuesday, Wednesdays, depending on how heavy each day is, one of those days would be my content creation day. So essentially in front of the camera, just shoot the content, getting it done. And then Wednesday or Thursday, again, becomes one of those days where it could be either post-editing, post-production, or maybe sitting down with one of my agency teams I'm working with now to help me plan out the post-production process as well. And then lastly, on Fridays, usually where I check in with my dashboards that I created using AI to see all the different data that are coming through, let's say on YouTube, how I'm performing this week, how many subscribers have actually converted into newsletter subscribers, for example, and then how I've grown on Instagram and LinkedIn, and just seeing where I can tweak the process to make that content flywheel be a bit more smoother next time around, and just constantly learning and iterating along the way. I think that's really important as well.
Yeah.
And I think Meryl's getting inspired for our new week schedule.
Yeah, totally.
Monday, strategic days.
Yeah.
No meetings.
Canceling all
Exactly, no
meetings.
meetings.
Exactly.
Next Monday. Stay tuned.
I think now that you just say that, iterating, would that you're doing all of that on your own, right? Without a team,
At
or
the
have you
moment,
grown
yes.
a team already? Is that
So I'm working with freelancers on
Okay.
and off, depending on the heaviness of that month. If it's a lot of videos, a lot of deliverables, then obviously I'll bring someone on to help me with that. I tend to find that quite flexible in the sense that I get to really kind of change the people that I work with. But sometimes there are challenging moments as well where you might need someone that you really love, but that person's not available. That becomes really hard as well.
yeah?
What was a moment in your kind of journey so far as a creator where you really thought, I've made it, or I'm able to like make a full-time living out of this, and it can be like a path, it can be a career. And I think the creator leader group just before were telling us that these are real careers and they're real journeys, and there's credibility around it. And at which point did you feel that, oh wow, I can actually make that could be a full-time for me?
Absolutely. I think for me is when sponsors start reaching out and when I did the research behind how much to charge for a sponsorship deal, for example, based on specific audience sizes, I didn't realize that being on YouTube is one of the best places where you're getting paid to build your personal brand and build your profile. And sponsors who are really generous in terms of helping you to make that happen as well. Because some videos I have this dream of making, but I might need that extra budget, to actually make this happen. And then some sponsors are able to step in and say, we'll sponsor this video for you. And therefore my audiences can access that information for free, while being able to support the channel as well. So it's great.
Do you reach out to brands as well? Is that part of your monetization strategy, or?
So we just started actually. I
Okay.
just brought someone as a freelancer on board to help me do that.
Yeah.
Previously, it's actually all been inbound, which I'm very grateful for because, again, I just love the fact that my content resonated with those particular brands and they want to align essentially with the channel and also with the audience. And one thing I want to say to people who are listening to this is that knowing your audience and who they are in terms of demographics is so important, because when brands reach out to you, you can make a very clear case on why that's beneficial for them to be aligned with your audience and to reach out to them at that particular perspective.
That's super interesting because we received Lydie and Hazal on the podcast just a few weeks back, and they were saying exactly the same thing. I think my question was, how do you say no? How do you say yes to a partner? And they were defining it as their why. So yes, their why, and then their audience, and that just helped them make those easy decisions when to take on or not take on a partner, which was really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I think you guys brought a really good point there, because people tend to get very smart these days with regards to sponsorships, and people expect it because it's part of the YouTube landscape now. But at the same time is, as a creator yourself, you know what's the best fit for your audience, and you know the tools and the services that you personally have tried or can recommend, essentially hands on heart, knowing that your audience will benefit from that. So making that really clear connection is really important, and not just thinking about making profit for the short term, because that could really kill your reputation in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so really approaching it with a long-term vision and
Absolutely.
the strategic mindset behind. Yeah.
Yes.
I wanted to dig more into audience because you mentioned this. So, what is currently your audience, and did that evolve through time, or how did you create the right content for your audience? At the beginning, I can imagine it's hard to define as you start building your channel. Who is this for? Am I attracting the right people? Is my packaging attracting those people? So, how did your audience evolve? Did it evolve at all? And then, what does it currently look like?
I think the audience grew with me, really, grew up with me online. I always like to say this in the sense that they were essentially in the same shoes that I was in when I started sharing about my own career journey, about things I'm learning, about the books I'm reading. And I would say now to define them as someone I can see in front of me is probably either a young or mid-career professional who are ambitious, who are looking to level up their careers by learning new skills. They're interested in nonfiction books, because clearly a lot of my audience love those nonfiction books videos I'm talking about. So sharing some of the concepts and learnings from those with them. And they're also excited about the future. They're more of a futurist type of perspective like myself. And I love the fact that I get to build this community of others who share that similar perspective to myself and being able to share my own passions with them. So yeah, I think they grew up with me online, really.
Yeah, you mentioned the beautiful word of community. I'm super curious to hear, like, what does community mean to you? What are the moments where you feel connected to them? How you build it?
I love that. I think community for me, now that I'm looking back to the different type of communities I've been in. So one of them is the one I built, the ones I'm part of here in London with creative leaders. Big shout out to them.
Yes.
And also Adobe as well, now being part of the creative community. So last night, amazing people that I met through the networking receptions and things like that. I think for me is people who make you feel belong while you're working on something that's really hard. And the reason for this is because I found it really tough as a creator doing it on my own. It just feels lonely, feels like no one understands what you're going through, because we're still in a very much a bubble type of population of individuals who believe in creating content that are going to be helping others in some shape or way. And I think for me to be in a community like this, let's say creative leaders or Adobe's creative community, or even the YouTube community that I actually have built, is being able to share with them the challenges I'm going through, and then having a safe space to share that, and being able to say, these are the things I'm finding it really tough. How are you guys doing this right now? And then hearing their lessons and, their own very unique, honest takes to help me to navigate that journey is really important. So for me, that's been such a great help.
Yeah, sounds like transparency and honesty here is like really important for you, and also being. I think it's quite vulnerable. So it is. I'm hearing from, we talk to a lot of creative professionals who are not creators necessarily, and trying to monetize their content and trying to become creators. And
Yeah.
I think that vulnerability is something that they're often worried about, or I think this imposter syndrome comes up a lot in terms of like, who am I? Who's going to be interested in my content? Who's interested in my work? And I think it's really valuable feedback.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And when you meet with your different communities, like, does it take you some time sometimes to open up, or is that totally coming natural? Because the reason why I'm asking this is we've also heard before that maybe in certain areas of the creator economy, maybe here in the UK, gatekeeping is, can still be something. But how do you make sure that you surround yourself with the people that are fueling you and that are also, they want to share insights and want to give and thereby get?
Yeah, I
How do you
agree with
select
that.
them?
I agree. I think it really comes down to, I hate to use this word, but it is true in a way, is that the vibe of a particular person, you can get that very quickly
Yeah,
within the first few minutes of speaking to them, right? But also the way that they support your journey and vice versa along the way.
yeah,
So I think really as creatives in general, I really want to call this out to everybody, because I think creativity and also as creators, it really isn't a zero sum game. It's in the sense that we together can join our voices and we can share what's working, what's not working with each other. It will make the whole process so much easier for everybody. But also, go out there, make introductions, share something that's working for you, the processes, maybe a particular way of you creating that's resonate with your audience. Share those lessons and wins with others and just lift each other up, because together we can then share a lot of things that on our journey have made it tough for us, and then other people can see that vulnerability, learn from the lessons, and then be able to say, okay, I'm not alone in this, and very much like myself in the early days. And then I think once I realized that, it made the whole process a lot more enjoyable, because I can then now say, actually, this is part of the experience. This is part of the experience of the becoming a long-term creator. It's not going to be always easy, always rosy, as you would see on certain highlight reels, right?
yeah,
As I said about videos going viral or deals coming through. And I think for creators who are coming new to the space right now, it's really important for them to see that, so they don't get essentially an unrealistic view of what the life could be like.
yeah. Because 90% happens, behind the screen and doesn't look super shiny.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that
Yeah,
quote, right? It's what you
yeah.
do in the dark that puts you in
Yeah,
the light.
yeah. I think that's what I was just thinking of.
You're
um,
both a good combo.
yeah, actually, Laurie, you mentioned, when there are tough times. I'm wondering. I mean, you speak a lot about AI and how it helps you in a very positive light. Do you anytime experience any negative comments, maybe also in that area in the digital space around how you use AI?
I mean, this came up a lot yesterday too when I was at that
Yeah,
summit event. Essentially, obviously, AI slop is an issue right now in the industry. But really, the way I shift this thinking is the one that we're seeing online that we think are AI slop, essentially, those are actually being misused by humans to create these. So AI itself is just a conduit as a tool. And if you see from people like amazing creatives like Siobhan and Teresa, who's used AI in the right way to make their creative visions come to life. And really, AI is there to remove a lot of the mundane, the admin, that for creatives ourselves we really hate doing anyway. But now it gets to elevate our creativity to a different level. And really our expertise, our experiences, it comes to light. And I think for once, I realized that for so many of ourselves, we stop doing the surface level work now. We can then take that much more deeper knowledge of what we know and bring that to our audiences, because AI has taken away so much of that essentially repetitive tasks that we used to do in the past. So I think, there are obviously negativities around how people are using it. But if we can embrace the right mindset, make sure we're leveraging AI in the right way, and then using it very responsibly, that's the key thing.
What do you feel is the biggest piece your community and like your subscribers need like help on? And what is the biggest piece of feedback, or what are some of the pain points that you've been noticing that we need to talk about, or we haven't been like aware of? What can you surface from your community in general around AI?
I see. Around AI or
Yeah, AI
particularly?
specifically. Yeah.
Specifically, I think again coming that back to really it's the overwhelm
Yeah.
of having too
Okay.
many tools to choose from,
Yeah.
too much information
Yeah.
and constant updates. Because within a week or 2 weeks, whatever we learned previously on a particular tool probably will be outdated. And this is where I always recommend three different ways of approaching this. So the first one is to think about what is your general all-around tasker that you can learn and be really deep on. So for a lot of us now, obviously, there's been a bit of backlash against, so specific LLMs in the past, but now we have Claude, which is probably the main, I would say, all-around kind of really general taskers that we can use. And then so LLM wise, I would say the first one is have that in your mind of going deep on that particular one tool. And secondly is having a research tool. So Perplexity, for example, for me, is a really key one that I use to source cited information that are actually essentially verified by the specific source that's coming from. So AI has this tendency of hallucinating on particular content sometimes, and you really want to double check on where that's coming from. And Perplexity for me has been a really great researcher tool on the back of that. And lastly, is having an automation tool. So this one is really thinking about, are there particular workflows that I can repeat again and again? And how do I leverage particular platforms for this? So Zapier, for example, or Make are great for this, where you can connect different apps together. So that way you're not actually jumping by copy pasting from one tool to another, but now it actually flows on its own from one app to the next. And one more thing I'm really excited about is this particular tool called Model Context Protocol, which is basically standing short for MCP. It sounds really technical, but
Yeah, it
bear with
is.
me here. What it is really is just allowing your AI tool to speak to the apps that you're already using right now. So the notions that a lot of our creatives are loving, the granolas or fireflies that jumped into our calls to actually take the notes.
Yeah.
All these things you can actually link up into your Claude, your ChatGPTs, and essentially make that into a workflow that begins to work itself within those AI spaces. So you no longer have to copy and paste information from one another. So imagine like it's like having an AI assistant who used to sit outside of your room, but now it's next to your computer. So they can now work naturally within these spaces without you having to essentially log into different things at the same time. And that again makes the whole workflow so much easier. So I tend to just recommend people to think about what is your key thing that you're working on right now? How do you then replicate that idea or that workflow by using AI tools that are out there that are essential to you, and then make that simple for yourself?
Is that also the approach you follow yourself when you choose a tool? Like, how many tries do you give a tool until you decide, okay, I'm going to stick with this, knowing that, yeah, there are new tools coming out every second week ish.
Exactly. So I think really what everyone essentially need is one of those general all-around taskers, because this is something that you go to again and again,
Yeah.
and go deep on that one tool, because really Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT, they all do very similar things, but obviously depending on the output, then you can choose the one that you want. So Claude, for example, I highly recommend for those who do a lot of writing content. I think Claude is fantastic for writing content that sounds like you. But obviously there's always that human element that you should inject into your outputs, right? Because
Yeah.
end of the day, no one can really replicate who you really are. And the other one is that thinking about, is there going to be a research element to my workflow? So are there things I need to verify online to double check or get data from? Perplexity is great for that because, again, they take online sources and cited sources to actually back up whatever it's saying. And then lastly is having something that's relevant to your workflow. So let's say for someone like me who uses a lot of presentations, then I use tools like Adobe Express where I can use essentially the AI element of that to help me structure the slides to make it a lot more quicker in the time that I do have. So think about ways that you can incorporate specific tools that make sense for that extra element of your work rather than just testing tools for testing tools' sake. Yesterday I had this conversation with obviously creators at the event. So
Yeah.
Caroline, for example, who does amazing AI generated videos and photos, and she told me really it's about understanding which one gives you the best output, and essentially going back to that same tool, using the same process you actually created, and then constantly testing that, because that's how you eventually get better and better at it, rather than jumping on new tools all the time.
Got it.
Yeah.
And when you think of all the work that comes with being a creator, Laurie, what is it that energizes you the most?
I think for me are those comments that you get,
The
the
comments
comments that you
from the
get,
community. Yeah.
especially the really in-depth ones. And I think all the creators who are listening to this probably would know what I'm talking about. The one where they say, I've been watching your video at 2 o'clock in the morning and I've been going through a really tough time.
Yeah.
But the way that you presented this information or your video just basically made me rethink the way that I work, or made me rethink the way that I'm living my life. And I think those moments are the ones that it feels like, wow, so my content actually did make a difference for somebody. And especially in the early days when there weren't that many views, that weren't that many subscribers or community there to really keep that motivation going. I found that to be really refreshing and really kind of keeps me, I suppose, motivated to keep on creating that next piece of content, to keep showing up for my audiences, because I know that there's someone out there who might need this, just like I did, right? Like where at one point I was making content for myself, really, for the Laurie that was maybe living this life 10 years ago. And I want to share that advice for that person who needs it now.
That's super impactful.
Yeah, is that actually the advice that you would also give your younger Laurie right now? Like keep going and, like find these little pieces of joy and energy that, yeah, re-energizes you?
I think that's definitely a big part of it.
Yeah.
And I will add to that is also stop waiting to be perfect for everything to start. And I think I wasted a lot of time. And I think a lot of creators resonate with this too, is that you waste a lot of time researching for the best equipment, the best lighting, which I totally agree that it is very important to have that production value in your content. But at the same time, when you're wasting so much of that time doing this, when you can actually just get started and start getting that feedback with your content live in the wild, right, in the real world, to get feedback from audiences who are actually watching it, telling you what could be better. I think that's a much better way to learn and iterate than just trying to make sure you're perfect from the get-go. That's my personal take on this.
Yeah, I like that.
Tell us a bit more about women in AI, because we were just talking about this before we started the podcast, and I feel like Meryl had the right question here, which was, what are you excited about? It sounds like that's something that's also energizing you. So I don't know if that's something you're already planning on doing, but what can you tell us about, what women in AI means to you and why that feels like something you resonate with?
Absolutely. I think throughout my career, I've always been working in industries that I feel, it wasn't really always female dominated. And I started in finance actually a long, long time ago when I started my first job. And from there, then moved on to digital advertising in advertising agencies and eventually moved on to AI. So all of these, I was always looking out for the role model in the room for myself as a young professional back then. And I feel that I benefited a lot from the mentors I was able to seek out in the space who are women. But sadly, there weren't that many of them. So really, as a community, and I see this with events that are running in London right now, that are in the AI space,
Yeah.
the demand, especially during the most recent International Women's Day, the demand was insane in terms of the amount of people who are women in this space wanting to create a space like this for themselves. And when I was speaking to other women who were attending those events, and they told me, why not, Laurie, let's start something. Why don't we create a space for this, like creator leaders doing that for creators in London. So this is something I'm quite excited about. It's very early stages, but I really made some amazing connections last night with some of the women who are doing amazing things in generative AI images and videos. So we're thinking about doing an event like that where we could showcase some of the things that they showcased last night with the community here, and to really open up the discussion table really on what we can do next in this space and how we can really all embrace, whether we're women or men, embrace more of this power of AI tools and to empower the way that we work in the future.
I can literally see the excitement on your face when you speak about it now. So I think that's definitely another really good sign of why you should go after that.
It's really refreshing to hear.
Yeah.
How much is actually, you just remind me of a question, but how much is in person important to you in terms of meeting with your community? Is that something that you will be experimenting with events and things like that? Or how much do you interact with your audience in person? Or is it mostly through your content online?
That's a really good point, guys, because I've been planning this for a while in the back of my mind, and I think it's a big next move really for the community to have them like a London meetup, a New York meetup. So wherever I'm traveling in the world, I can say, hey guys, I'll be in this coffee shop, for the next hour or two. We'd love to meet you. I think it'd be great to see them in person because I crave that human connection. And as we all know, right, loneliness is probably one of the biggest epidemics in the current world right now. And if we can bring more of that in-person relationship with our communities, it makes such a difference. Like yesterday and today, I just feel so energized being surrounded by creators, being surrounded by other creatives who are doing amazing things and learning from them.
Yeah.
And I think that learning process really kicks off when you see what each other are doing in person live and just share that excitement with each other, which you can't replicate on a lens or over Zoom, for example. So yeah, I just love in-person events. I think something that's on my agenda.
This reminds me of Joe Allen. If anyone knows photographer Joe Allen, who has a YouTube channel and lives in Japan now, actually is from the UK. He always does these like, I'm here for the next hour, I'm doing this meetup, or I'm doing a photo walk. And we used to chat, a couple of years back, where he used to tell me that he was so impressed by the number of people who would turn up and how global his community was, and how surprised he was to see all these great creatives join him, and it became something that he was hosting. I don't know if he's been doing it recently, but yeah, something that he was really passionate about, and I think you'd be surprised how many people want to interact and join in person. So.
Definitely. That's the feedback we're getting as well. And also feedbacks are any kind of community meetup I've been to. People just really crave in-person type of experiences, especially post-COVID, where we're coming out that period. And essentially people really love essentially having that energy, right, of people around you who are with similar vibes, similar interests, be able to share that together. So
yeah, and Meryl hosted a lot of our events at Adobe, and we're here live today, so it feels like
Yeah.
it's very relevant. We
I
hear
know,
that a lot from
definitely.
the
Yeah,
community,
exactly.
so no surprise here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you get home from these in-person community events and you have just absorbed all these insights, new exchange new ideas, how do you actually get into action mode then? Like, do you need a few days to just write them down or calm down, and then you try to start and test something, or do you start right away? Curious about that.
So I think I share this with a lot of creatives too, is that I'm a ambivert myself. And ambivert essentially is like half introvert, half extrovert in a way. And for me, whenever after a big event like these, I need to kind of calm down a little bit, retreat, taking notes, and then really think about what I learned the last few days. And then once I've done that, you're right. I think really the biggest gap in terms of seeing results from what we learned to what we can actually apply is by just taking action on it and
Yeah.
start trying these things out. So the new ideas that you take in notes down, the tools that you thought would be really useful for your workflow as a creator, the connection that you made, right? Reaching out to them over a message on following up. Because I think, really a lot of times the relationships that I made and the friendships that I actually made are from those events where we decide to actually meet up for coffee afterwards and take that step further. And I think as creatives, we should really embrace that a lot more in terms of just coming together after and getting that chance and the opportunity to share that ideas and maybe doing some collaborations.
Yeah.
I was speaking to some creatives last night, and they say that for her agency, she was able to work with a creative who are actually in the Adobe community,
Yeah.
and then now they're doing projects together, which is really exciting. So I'm looking to do more of those, especially now with YouTube having this collaboration feature where you can collaborate on videos on your channel.
Oh, wow.
I think those are really cool.
Yeah. Super insightful. Laurie, what are you excited about for this year? As a creator, maybe also looking at your vision board, if you have any.
What's next?
What's next in the field of AI, in terms of the content you produce? Any highlights that you want to share?
Yeah, so for me, I think the hiring aspect is probably one of the biggest things I'll be working on this year. It's just because I realize, like I told you guys earlier, with the freelancers I'm working on, it's great to have that flexibility, but at the same time, I really crave to have that stability of being able to, really rely on a particular team to carry through a specific workflow that I'm currently designing. And that's one part of it. Second part of it is I'm also thinking about writing a book in the near future. So this is the first time I'm sharing this online.
About what?
And it's, I think, along the lines of human experiences in the age of AI, something along those lines where I want to talk about what does it mean to be a creative, trying to showcase your experience and everything that you know, but leveraging the AI tools that we have around us. And how do we make sure that continue to be true to ourselves and being authentic to who we are while we're optimizing and leveraging all these amazing technology, which is very fascinating for me, I think. And I had this, some really deep conversations last night with creatives for doing this. And we all agree that, it's a balancing act, right? It's a balancing act of not optimizing yourself so much that eventually you lose a sense of who you are. and I really wanted to dive into that topic a lot more deeper. So I don't know exactly what direction that'll take yet. So this is the first time I'm kind of like sharing with you guys here,
Yeah,
but
and you
it's a
put
very
it out
exciting
there.
area
It's
for me.
important.
Yeah, I put it out there. If there's any interest in that, do let me know, or any ideas you want to share with me, please let me know as well. I'll be all ears.
And you
So
mentioned yesterday your partner wrote a book as well, so it
Yeah.
felt like a big project for him. So you probably learn a lot hands-on from seeing him
exactly.
write one.
I have a huge respect for authors because I've seen the whole process, and it's definitely not easy.
Intense.
Yeah,
So
fabulous. Um, Laurie, if we want to follow up, or if the audience wants to follow up, where can they start with your content? Where would you lead them to? Is it the YouTube channel, your newsletter, your website?
of
Share a little bit
course.
more about that.
Sure. If you want to learn more about AI, which is my bread and butter, feel free to head over to modernskill.ai. That's my website. And you can also get a 5-day, essentially free newsletter on how you can learn AI from day zero. And then the other one is on my YouTube channel, which is Laurie X Wang. That's my handle. You can find me there as well. Looking forward to connecting with them.
Amazing. Thanks so much for joining us. That was super insightful. And there's so much going on today that it's very interesting to see so much
Yeah.
movement outside. So I hope you'll get to enjoy the event and grab your matcha. We'll all go there right after this. So
I'm
we're
very
super
excited to go dig into that. Thank
A
you.
nice treat.
Thanks so much, Laurie, for joining us today at Creator Live, recording live from here. Thanks so much, Emma, for being my co-host. It was really fantastic. And for everyone who is listening in or who listened and watched, stay tuned for the next episode. We'll feature the next creator.